If you're running ads off of the video that I did for you, but you take my ad and you're like, okay, I'm running your ad for 6 months. And that 6 months, you actually make $20,000 off of that ad through Facebook using my video, right? So that you have to really, really be careful with these things and charge your worth, because most of the time when those brands are doing that, they make so much money off of your content and you give them the rights to that content in your contract. So if anyone's listening who's doing this, learn and charge way more than you think. Trust me.
Welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show that is laser focused to inspire you to take action to start or to scale your side hustle income streams. I'm your host, Joan Posivy, author of The Way Success Works, How to Decide, Believe, and Begin to Live Your Best Life. Ever wonder what it takes to be a content creator, or even what it really is? You'll find out through today's guest, Biohacker Brittany Ford. After graduating university, she started working for an architectural firm, but soon realized that the corporate world was no match for her entrepreneurial spirit. After pivoting to become a registered nutritionist and working with clients one-on-one, Brittany could see that increasingly people were reaching out to her for content creation. Maybe for you too, it's your calling. But regardless of your chosen side hustle, Brittany's words of wisdom are sure to inspire. I particularly appreciated her awareness and focus on deep work and what she does to make sure it happens. I trust after listening to this episode, you will too. Be sure to catch the wrap up at the end when I focus on 2 vital takeaways to your side hustle success. One is a tool called the Friday box that you must use if you're facing a pressing problem that is keeping you from focusing on your business. And the other is knowing how to spend time on what is important versus urgent, what's in your face. Now here is my conversation with biohacker and content creator, Brittany Ford. Well, hey, Brittany, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
You know, there are so many people out there who would love to be making a living doing what you're doing in your business. And we'll get to that, of course. But first, let's cover some backstory. What did you jump into after you left university?
I left university and went into the corporate world and worked at an architecture firm in the beginning and worked there for 2.5, 3 years. And it was very busy and very crazy. And I learned so much from it. And I kind of had this hunch when I was going through it that the corporate world wasn't really for me. And it felt very restrictive. And it felt like it was going to take me a long time to really make the kind of money I want to make the impact I want to make. And it just felt like I had this very long road and ladder ahead of me. And on one hand, like I think most people feel like that coming out of school. I think that's very natural when you take your first like entry level job to kind of feel like, whoa, this is it. This is what people do all week. You just work and then you live for the weekend and then you do it again. But I did learn a lot of skills from that. And I think the experience was valuable looking back. Maybe I didn't realize it during the time, but looking back, it definitely taught me a lot. And so what ended up happening was after those few years, I started thinking about going back to school and what could that look like? How could I transition from, working in the architecture world to working in the health world, which are completely different. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, my passions have lived in the health world since the beginning. But what ended up happening was the job offer at the architecture firm was so good at the time that it just felt like I need to do this for the experience. Like I need to get my foot in the door, start meeting the right people in Vancouver, et cetera, et cetera.
I love the way you mentally found a way to make this a good thing.
Yes. Yes.
Even though it was your dream job, you're getting this experience and everything else that came with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it paid pretty well as well. Like I was able to pay off a ton of my student debt, which was awesome because if I had thrown myself into another program right away or like tried to build a business with that much student debt, like I would have been so stressed and it would have felt very different. And so it did definitely play its role. And so then I had to, look at going back to school and what would that look like, and how could I still work and do that at the same time? How could I start building my own business? How could I afford it? All of these types of things you kind of think of.
Mm-hmm.
And so what ended up happening was my partner got a job offer in New Zealand, and because he got that job offer, I had to leave my job in Vancouver. And it was good because it was really difficult for me to leave. And so that like pushed me to do that. And then that pushed me to start studying online and get a part-time online job at the same time and start my business online. So I had this like event that was like, here's the shakeup that you need in your life to kind of get you where you really want to go.
And what was that business that you started?
Well, that was my social media business.
Okay.
I started on Instagram. I just started building a following, started educating people on health and wellness, and started a website, and wasn't selling anything right off the bat because, I wasn't a holistic nutritionist. So I didn't feel like I necessarily could do or could sell anything. I guess I could have sold something, but I wanted to start building a following right away. And because I knew that when the time came for me to monetize my business, I would have this following that I could lean on and lean into to now have clients and now grow and, monetize.
Good for you for that forward thinking.
Yeah. And so that was very helpful. So the whole time in New Zealand for about a year, I was working a part-time job online, studying online, and building my brand online. And then basically we came back and I graduated from school. And then at that point, I started seeing clients and started really leaning into my social media presence, and also launched my podcast, got a better website, kind of just like leveled everything up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was awesome. So it was kind of like this like slow transition, I would say. But I think it's like worked out the best in that way.
Mm-hmm. So what started out to be these side hustles has evolved into this wonderful wellness health offering that you do now.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like I'm all for people who kind of jump in 2 feet and are like, let's do this business full time and whatever. But for me, like it would have been too stressful. And I don't think I had enough experience at the time to understand fully what that would mean. So even working the part-time job, which was in the health field, which is in the health field, I've learned so much from that. And I've been able to apply that to my business. So I think there's like this sweet spot of getting experience before you do your side hustle full time. But at one point, you do have to take the leap, of course.
Yes. But a key, and you mentioned it, hit on it, is that through that other part-time work, you did have money coming in.
Exactly.
And while there are exceptions, most of the successful people that I know that have transitioned into something that they were doing on the side to full-time, they had some sort of income source. Because at least if your basic needs are met, then you've got the mental capacity to be able to focus and stay positive and work on growing the business rather than being stressed out where the next rent check is coming from.
Yeah. It's very different when you are working in your business and it feels frantic and like there's this necessity for it to generate income, and almost like I don't know, like anxiety about it succeeding, right? Compared to, like you said, like I have my bills paid and I can really be creative in my space and let it flourish in its own way without trying to just like be neurotic and confine it.
Yeah, because then you're in a much better positive mindset.
Yeah.
And I'm quite certain we're on the same page with this, that mind and body are one. You can't separate the two. So what's going on mentally is going to impact us physically. And if we are stressed out about lack of funds coming in because we've jumped in with 2 feet with no plan for income, where's our thinking going to be? Well, it's going to be in a really negative space.
Yeah, exactly. And the journey looks different for everybody, right? Like some people just go right away. Some people, it takes years and years for them to do it full time. Some people have like multiple side hustles too, right? But I think what's really cool that we're seeing now is that side hustles are pretty much normal. Like it's such a mainstream thing for people to have multiple sources of income now and maybe even multiple businesses. And it's going to be interesting to see how this applies to future generations as well and like how it shifts again.
For many years, I've taught about passive income.
Mm,
Because that's something growing up I had never heard
yeah.
of. I was raised with go to school, get a good job, work there forever. Like kind of what you started in the beginning. You said you're working 9 to 5 just for the weekend, and then is this it?
Yeah.
So I've always taught to create those passive income streams so that your expenses are covered by those passive income streams.
Mm,
So to be able to look to some of those side hustles in such a way that at one point they can become very automatic.
yeah.
So it's not requiring your time and attention all the time.
Yeah.
Your side hustles have been evolving.
Hmm.
How are they doing? What's the transition been like in terms of what you were originally doing to what your focus is now?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was more of like a side hustle volunteer situation with zero income coming in, which I think is actually very common for people. And then I transitioned into working with clients one on one as a nutritionist online. And then at the same time, I also started working with brands. And so it was a lot of content creation through social media, through my podcast, images, videos, podcast ads, blog articles, that type of thing.
Right?
And then now that's all I do. And it's interesting when you have a side hustle or a business, how you start on day one doesn't necessarily mean that is what you're going to be doing the entire time. And it doesn't mean that that is actually what you're going to be most successful at. And
That's so true.
yeah. And it's interesting, like when you are an entrepreneur, you have to be very open to that type of idea. And you can't have a lot of ego attached to it, right? Like when I did a 2021 year in review of my business, it was very obvious that most of my business came from working with other brands, us
Nice.
collaborating together, me writing articles, creating content, online content. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is what I need to lean into. If this is what people are reaching out for me to do, and I actually don't have to reach out to people to do this, then this is what I should be doing. And that's kind of the decisions that you have to make. And you can't be upset that, you don't have a lot of clients one-on-one and you're not like the best nutritionist in the whole entire world, whatever, right? Like you just have to lean into, I think, what your talents are and also what other people see in you. And so I think having the open mind and open perspective is like one of the best traits you can have as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's helpful to get people you trust to give you feedback on, what do you see as my strengths? What do I
Yeah.
should be doing? And such an excellent point about what you start at thinking your business is going to look like. We got to be open to those changes because
Mhm.
opportunities will come along. And if we're really fixed that it has to go in a certain direction, we may miss those really great
Mhm.
opportunities. And if you hadn't had that open mind, you might have been just working with clients now.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody that I know who is an entrepreneur has pivoted so many times in their business,
Hmm.
so many times based on customer needs and client needs. And of course, that kind of sucks. And there are negative sides to that. But ultimately, over time, that is the correct thing to do because your customers speak, right? Like it's very obvious where people will put their money for you.
Yes.
So
And actually, you might have just answered this, but something else might pop into mind for you. What's one of the key actions that you've taken or continue to take that has contributed to the success of your business?
yeah, I mean, there's so many things that I can say. I think what I'm learning now that I'm seeing be very helpful is moving out of the day to day operations and moving further into deep work. So, in the beginning, I would be answering emails right away and responding to DMs on Instagram right away and like just constantly being there.
Mm-hmm.
But I would never really get bigger projects done or bigger things done that require a lot of focus, a lot of mental energy. And now I will try to put an hour aside every single day to work on a bigger project that I have and answer emails, every other day and kind of bulk it and do all of them within an hour, hour and a half, whatever it is. And so I think that's what I need to move forward to, and like what other people need to or can as well, is like, just because someone emailed you, it doesn't mean that you have to respond right away. And you don't need to spend your day responding to other people, because it is moving the business forward, but it's not moving it as forward as doing whatever hard projects and hard tasks you actually need to be doing. So that's a tough lesson to learn, because it's so satisfying responding to emails, right? Like,
Right.
you feel
I got it done.
I got it done. It's out of the inbox. You feel accomplished, but it's not really doing much. Like,
No.
So yeah, there's got to be some boundaries, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I try to do that important work first thing, so that even if, stuff always comes up during the day and there's, delays and interruptions, but at least, if you've looked after those top 3 things first thing, or at least the very first one to prioritize. And for you, that could be that hour. I think that's an excellent choice of managing our time.
I think we like to think we're great at multitasking, but we're not. We're not. Like the human brain really struggles with that. And it's really, really interruptive. Like if you sit and you're working and your phone is right there and you get like a text message, but you're in deep work or creating some sort of book or whatever you're doing, like, how are you supposed to go from one thing to the other and still create as good of content? Like, I don't even sit with my phone at my desk during the workday because I can't be disrupted. Like, it can wait. Like, if something was on fire, someone would eventually tell me, I would find out, or you check at lunch, whatever it is. Like, I think we just need to create space for our productivity. And it
sounds like you're in control of the phone. It's not in control of you.
Yes, I've definitely had it the other way around. So I've learned. Yeah.
Yeah. It takes so much time to get our head back into that project after the interruption too.
Yeah.
So it really elongates the time.
Exactly.
What do you find the most challenging about growing your side hustle and growing your business?
Right now, I have a lot of work on my plate. And as a content creator, you are constantly having to produce content and then publish the content and then manage it and manage everything that goes with it. And so right now, every day I'm like trying to keep up with emails, comments, messages, and I don't know if it's going to get easier. I know people get assistance and like kind of move into that space, and that makes a lot of sense. But the challenge with that is that you need to do that in order to grow, and you need to be responsive with people, but that eats up so much time and you're not actually doing deep work. Like, that takes away from me creating new podcast episodes or me creating new videos because I'm spending so much time replying to people about everything. So there needs to be this balance of like managing your content, responding to the people who are responding to it, but then also like shutting that off and giving yourself creative hours so that you can make new stuff. And that balance is something I really struggle with right now.
And that's so key for a business person to recognize how we can be really busy during the day, but we're dealing with everything that's urgent, which may not be the things that are important. Like you said, moving the business forward, deeper into the content creation, maybe offering more products and services for your existing clients and new ones in the future, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned the word biohacking, I believe. Tell us about the name of your company and where that came from.
Yeah, so my business is called Biohacking Brittany, and my podcast is Biohacking with Brittany, same type of idea. And biohacking is basically the newest way to call someone who's super into health and wellness. It's a very trendy term, and I describe it as biohacking is holistic self-care for optimal health. And so basically, instead of only looking at nutrition or fitness or something like that, it looks at everything that makes you you, like sleep and stress and supplements and environment. And then we look at how do we alter those things so that you can be healthier and you can reach and maintain optimal health. And that's kind of the whole idea with biohacking is like, it's about prevention. It's about putting the work in now so that you can be healthier today, but also be healthier in 30 years. And let's work on longevity and those types of things. And that's why I really love it. It's very, what is it? New edge or whatever they call it. Like,
Cutting edge.
Cutting edge. Yeah. And everyone is just very open to new ways of healing, which I love. So it's not like, I think the world of wellness right now is so saturated that it's really nice to be in the biohacking space because I feel like it's just way more niche and way more specific. And I just love that.
Nice. So what percentage of you mentioned clients, what percentage of your revenue now comes from like sponsors and affiliate sales versus seeing clients?
I have actually paused on taking clients entirely.
Okay.
And that was because when I looked back on my year of 2021, I, looked at all the success and all of the income and things like that. And majority of it came from collaborating with other brands as a content creator.
Wow.
And then I was like, okay, like I am seeing clients, but I'm like, that's really not what people are coming to me for. Like people are coming to me to create videos with their products. They pay me, they take those videos and make Facebook ads out of them, for example, or whatever, something like that. Right. And so I was like, okay, I think I need to step away from clients for a while and go into this because clearly this is what the people are saying. And I also don't love working with clients one-on-one. So is it that I didn't love them and I didn't want to work with them anymore and I wasn't attracting people because maybe that was like the energy that I gave off? Totally could be a thing, right? Like people are pretty magnetic when they're like in their space and you're like, oh, this is your zone. This is what you're good at. And so I had to just be like, okay, I can't do everything. I can't do brands and one-on-one clients at the same time. Totally different ways of working with people. This is too much. And so I just, took a break.
I get the feeling you enjoy the content creation. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. There's a lot of creativity with it. There's a lot of fun with it too, which I like. And there's just way more freedom with it for sure.
And for someone who has not been involved in content creation, they may not appreciate how much time it takes behind the scenes to come up with that final video or the reel or the post. Can you give me some insight into that? Like how much time would actually go into a 15-second video or an image post?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what it's about. So, for example, I work with this one brand every month and they do like health tests. And basically they come to your door, they test you for 43 different biomarkers, including like hormones, vitamins, minerals, that type of thing. And I have to create 2 videos for them per month that get posted on my social channels. And the videos, they want them around 30 seconds. I think that shorter videos perform better, but we do 30 seconds. And every month there's specific topics I have to talk about. And so it's not like these quick like trend videos, which can take me half an hour. These ones take much longer. So you have to be like, okay, this is the topic of the month. What am I going to do about it? So there's the brainstorming session. Then there's the filming session, which includes you getting ready, whatever that looks like, whatever products, props, setting that you need, and then filming it and then putting it together and editing it, which is easily the longest part because usually you're talking in the video, there's multiple clips and
multiple angles, probably.
multiple angles. You have to make sure it's somewhat good quality. Then what does the caption say? And all of these types of things. So for those type of videos, it's probably like 2-3 hours of work for 30 seconds,
Right.
which
Yes.
sounds insane when you actually say that. But then that's why content creators get paid so well, is because there's actually so much time that goes into it. And you just see this like final cute little video that's 30 seconds, but like you have no idea how long it took to like get to that point, you know?
Great.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for opening our eyes to that.
Yeah.
So in addition to what we see on your Instagram channel and your other social media spaces,
Yeah.
you're also doing content that we'll never see there.
Yes. Yes. So it depends. It depends how we work together. So some people are like, hey, we want you to promote our product to your audience because they want to convert my audience to sales, which
Okay.
is very typical. That's, influencer affiliate work. But then there's also more content creation side. It's called like UGC now is what they call it, like user generated content.
Right.
And that is when they take the photos and videos and they push it to their social platforms and they use it for ads sometimes as well.
Sure.
And those look different. Like if you're running ads off of the video that I did for you and you pay me, let's say, which is not the case. Let's say you pay me $100 for this video, but you take my ad and you're like, okay, I'm running your ad for 6 months. And that 6 months, you actually make $20,000 off of that ad through Facebook using my video, right? So you have to really, really be careful with these things and charge your worth, because most of the time when those brands are doing that, they make so much money off of your content and you give them the rights to that content in your contract. So if anyone's listening who's doing this, learn and charge way more than you think. Trust me. There's a lot of learning curve with this type of thing as well. You really have to be comfortable talking numbers with people over the internet that you will never meet in real life.
And how did you learn all this?
Just trial and error, basically. But there are a lot of websites online that talk about like being a successful content creator, how to do it, what to charge, the best software to use, like all of these things. There's a lot of resources because so many people are doing it now, right? Like it's called the creator economy.
Yes.
And I find it wild. I don't know who told me this, and I don't know if I mentioned this last time to you, but someone was saying that now when the average grade 6 child is polled about like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? They actually say a YouTuber is the number one answer now.
Wow.
Which is insane. Because for a while there, it was like teacher, doctor, whatever, right?
Yes.
But they just want to be on YouTube now, creating videos. Like it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's next for Biohacking Brittany? What's in the works for you?
Yeah, this is a great question. What is next? Oh, I don't know. I guess so. I'm not rebranding, but I'm kind of rebranding slowly. So I'm sticking with the name, obviously, because it's just too everywhere now. Like I'm not going to change it, but I really want to focus on specific pillars of content. Whereas before, I think I was kind of doing all health, wellness, biohacking. But now I'm like, I've looked at the content that performs the best and I'm going like full in on like 3 or 4 topics only. And so that means that when I'm creating videos, I'm reiterating those pillars over and over again. And when I, redo my website and get new photos for it, those photos are going to reflect those pillars of content. And that's what I want to be known for specifically. And ever since I started really focusing on this in the last few weeks, let's say, my content is performing much better.
Wow.
Like my channels are growing much, much better because I'm just looking at what's doing well and I'm just making more of that. Right. And so again, it's like, it's the same thing of like looking back on last year and being like, okay, people are coming to me for content creation, not to be a nutritionist. Great. Let's go into that. Now, like some of the stuff that does well are things like ancestral eating, like raw milk, as well as like plant medicine and things like that. And so it's creating content around these types of topics and being known as the person to go to for those things.
Ancestral eating?
Yeah. Yeah. So ancestral eating is basically like how our ancestors ate pre modernization of food.
Okay.
So paleo is kind of like that, but the Paleolithic era was 10,000 years ago. And paleo, when you eat paleo, you only kind of eat the food that was around during that time. Whereas ancestral eating or ancestral nutrition is all of the period of time, with a focus on whole food, local food, what is available from our farmers market, that type of thing, which I really like. So,
yeah. You mentioned raw milk. I just had a flashback to years ago, I used to own a delicatessen, and one of our staff member used to get milk from a local farmer, and she'd bring it in. She'd give us those jars with the cream sitting on top.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yes. I have a supplier right now for raw milk. So raw milk's illegal in Canada, right? So you have to really figure out how to get it. And I've helped a lot of people get it, but it's so good. It's so fresh. So I really like it. Yeah.
What's the best way for our listeners to connect with you?
Yeah. So you can check me out at biohackingbrittany.com. That is where there's a bunch of information. My podcast lives there, which is Biohacking with Brittany. And I'm most active on Instagram. Again, Biohacking Brittany. I'm also on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, like everything. So, but Instagram's probably the best one. Yeah.
Yeah. And lots of very helpful content there. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That means a lot.
It's often the start that stops most people from taking action, often due to fear, fear of the unknown, fear of failure.
Yeah.
What's your best tip, your best hack for taking action when you're feeling maybe a bit of self-doubt or uncertainty?
I think the sooner you take the action, the better. The longer you're in that waiting period of deciding, should I do it? Should I not do it? You just get more nervous and more anxiety and more stressed about it. So go for it. Just go for it. And honestly, most of the time, if you listen to your intuition and your gut, you know what the decision is that you should be making, right? Like intuitively, you know, like, hey, I need to email this person or I need to fire this person, whatever it is. And there's no better time like right now. So.
Well, I appreciate you, Brittany, sharing not only your tips and business wisdom, but for giving us some things to think about in regards to our health and introducing me to ancestral eating, ancestral nutrition. Life is so much easier if we can play the game of life in a healthy body. So thank you for that and for being today's Side Hustle Hero.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Brittany mentioned that her intent is to spend 1 hour a day on deep work, things that move her business forward in a meaningful way. You and I both know that we can be busy all day, but end up not really accomplishing much, or at least not things that are really important to the business. So here are 2 tips to help you with that. Number 1, recognize the difference between what's urgent versus important. Urgent is something that shows up in your face, your phone ringing, a notification of an email. But those things are not necessarily important. We need to learn to distinguish between the two. What Brittany does is set aside 1 hour a day for deep work. That's smart. That means no distractions. Consider what is a true vital priority for the day that is going to move your side hustle forward. Then silence your phone. Turn it face down, or better yet, do what she does and leave it in another room altogether where you won't be tempted to flip it over to look. And treasure that hour and milk it for all it's worth. Look, I know it's satisfying to bang out a bunch of emails and feel like you've accomplished something, but take a look at your goals. That should be your indicator of the success of your day. What have you done towards the accomplishment of those? Creating an environment for your deep work will help you do that. The second tip I want to share is another tangible tip, but also a realization or a reminder. Remember that you are in control of how you spend your days. Of course, you may be choosing to work for a company full time for various reasons, and that's cool. But you don't have to be a slave to your phone's notifications of emails or text messages or DMs, because while some of them might be positive, which is great, some might be a reminder of not so positive things. A person who was an associate of mine many years ago was going through some extremely difficult times. He was being sued in a big way. And while he knew he needed to deal with all of that, he also had the awareness that he had to find a way to, at the same time, build and move his company forward in order to survive. So what he did was create what he called a Friday box. And during the week, anything that arrived in his space that had to do with his trial date, lawsuits, anything related to that went into his Friday box. And his commitment was that he would deal with all of that, but on Friday. So he was taking responsibility for it by saying, yes, I'll deal with it, but I will do so on Friday. The other 6 days of the week, I'm going to focus on my family, on my business to grow it. And that's how I'm going to get through all this. I thought it was brilliant. The key takeaway from the Friday box is that for the most part, the external world is not in control of us. Although too often we relinquish that control by reacting to any DM, tweet, email, or incoming phone call. Stop. Take back your control. You, your mental health, and the success of your side hustle will all thank you. Well, that's a wrap for today. You'll find the links we mentioned and the show notes on our website, sidehustleheropodcast.com. And I'd love to hear your feedback on the show, on the guests, how this podcast is helping you. What areas could we do better? Shoot me an email message to hello@joanposivy.com or by DM on Instagram @JoanPosivy. Thanks for listening and hustle on.